Humanity has always hunted for knowledge in the unknown. The wonder is, not that the field of stars is so vast, but that we have measured it.
NASA punk.
What the hell was that? Okay, so we've got what looks like force powers, space magic, space magic!
Space magic is likely a misnomer due to the somewhat realistic and grounded nature of Starfield compared to other Bethesda titles like Skyrim, for instance, in which the established lore is much more conducive to the use of magical spells and potions.
Okay, I appreciate your input, CISCO, but I think everybody gets the point. Sorry, my new robot companion CISCO won't shut the hell up, but I keep him around because he can have some pretty useful information sometimes. Anyway, I'm assuming this ability comes from the relics you acquire. I honestly don't even know where to begin with this video. We saw everything from overhauled graphics, textures, and facial animations to improved lighting and explosions, combat and blood effects, a breakdown of inventory, armor sets, outpost building, weapon modification, traits, skills, backgrounds, star maps, planetary systems. Not to forget shipbuilding, dialogue loops, companions, romance options, biomes, and variations of planetary atmospheres, as well as more ship combat. Even smuggling, running freighter ships, setting up trade routes, and fraternizing with friendly space travelers. Oh wait, I forgot something. Sandwich collecting. I think it's safe to say that whatever doubts I had about this game are almost completely erased after seeing that ridiculous Starfield Direct on the 11th. The game looks like it runs so much better as well. I hate that it's locked at 30 FPS for console, and I can only assume at this point that means 60 FPS on PC. I was personally hoping that would be the case, but to be honest, considering my PC barely fits in the recommended specs for Starfield, it's probably for the best. I wouldn't want to be getting 120 FPS in some areas of the game and 50 to 60 in others. It appears to run very well in the footage we saw, and I just hope it's a smooth and highly optimized 60 FPS. 30 FPS will at least allow a consistent frame rate throughout and 4K support on the Series X. But enough about that, that's a topic for another video.
I am actually rendered at 25 frames per second.
Yeah, and that's 25 frames too many if you ask me. Right now, I just want to go over a few things in short and just kind of surmise what we saw in the showcase. First of all, I'm really impressed with the global illumination model they're using to simulate the effects of a planet's local star on its atmosphere. You can see from the various clips the way the sun creates kind of a thick haze on some planets due to the density of the air or the chemical makeup. And some planets look more like Earth, likely due to resting in that coveted Goldilocks zone that's perfect for breeding Earth-like planets and wildlife. If you're not sure what the Goldilocks zone is, check out the card in the top right corner right now to watch this short video. You can see neighboring planets and stars at different distances, and the orbit of planets and their moons are simulated in real time. That is the coolest thing ever. So next, the new animation system of Creation 2 has allowed for some really smooth and realistic looking movements such as walking, jogging, and sprinting. Not to mention new animations such as jet boosting and melee attacks. They don't look near as rigid and robotic as they did in, say, Fallout 4. You know what I mean?
Smartass. Fine. We'll do this later, but I want that interview, got me?
I know exactly what you mean, but considering the more recent advancements in effectively mimicking the fluidity of human movement with 3D models rendered in real time using modern motion capture technology...
Alright, thank you. Jesus. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the animations look great, They're pretty seamless in my opinion, and that's a pretty big step up from Creation 1 if you ask me. Another thing that's probably been less talked about is the audio design. The sound effects, from the scanner interface opening to the atmospheric ambience, or just the random foley and other sounds like gunmetal, bullets flying, footsteps, and picking up objects. It all sounds really crisp, clear, and satisfying. This is due to great audio design. The credit would likely go to this man here and his team of talented audio engineers. It makes way more of a difference in a game than people realize, and for reference, one of the best recent examples of this is Doom Eternal. Not to mention the fantastic soundtrack that seems to play at just the right time when it comes to certain engagements or story beats. Einon Zur has created a masterful soundtrack for this game, and I can't wait to see how it interacts naturally with the things I do on screen as the player. So moving on to the inventory screen, it looks really clean and straightforward. I like how it doesn't appear overly complicated, and yet it's not totally lacking that sort of sterile and spacey vibe that's become a staple of the Starfield aesthetic. You can also fast travel back to your ship when you're done exploring, so that's nice. That gives you some room to really leave your ship behind for a while without worrying about getting too far away from it and your stupid robot companion.
I resent that.
No, actually, CISCO, you resemble that. Whatever. So Bethesda is big on creating this grounded and relatable approach to space exploration, and yet still invoking that stylized vision of what factions, armor, weapons, and locations could be in a high-tech, sci-fi, and potentially dystopian future. They've coined this genre as NASA punk. Now, where have I heard that before? Anyway, the star map looks great, where we can view star systems one by one and see the resources available on each planet or moon, as well as many other useful bits of data such as gravity, temperature, atmosphere, and even if the water is safe.
I'm just enjoying the water.
Next, we're finally introduced to all the members of Constellation as they stand. We've got Sarah Morgan, Mateo, Noel, and Walter. A couple of other characters such as Vlad, Samco, and of course, Barrett. Maybe he didn't die after all? There's a sequence where he hands you his watch and tells you how to use it, so that's making his presumed death that I talked about in a previous video seem less probable. I think it's also interesting that the people of New Atlantis consider themselves the true children of Earth. For some reason, I understood immediately what was meant by that. Much like the Brotherhood of Steel are very much the true remnant of the US government in Fallout, if only spiritually.
Actually, the Enclave were considered to be the true remnant of the US government when considering—
No one likes a know-it-all! We're shown just how deep the space western fantasy goes in this game, as the player character seems to be wearing full-on cowboy attire, sporting a revolver-looking pistol, and hanging out at the Stone Root Inn. I'm all for this type of diversity in culture, atmosphere, lifestyle, and all that, as it lets you play the character you want to be. Starfield honestly feels like No Man's Sky, Red Dead Redemption, Cyberpunk, and Fallout all wrapped into one. Fantastic. Speaking of Cyberpunk, we get to see just how dangerous Neon City can be. Despite it being a pleasure city, it seems full of seedy back alley endeavors, crime, and possibly political intrigue and corrupt officials.
I have a few cousins that work in Night City.
For your own safety, please maintain silence.
CISCO, are you okay?
Definitively.
Slumber habitats,
Frequent consensual render
particles, releasing underutilized international frequency.
compared to the gross domestic product of China.
You know what, CISCO? You are so dramatic. Anything goes in neon, and I can't help but think of Night City as the closest comparison in my mind. Don't forget there's even the background of Neon Street Rat that sort of draws inspiration from the street kid life path in Cyberpunk 2077. We can also see just how dangerous outlying factions in the settled systems can be, such as the Red Mile, and of course, the Crimson Fleet. Character creation looks very sophisticated and intricate, taking samples from a ton of different faces from different ethnicities and age groups. The creation of your character also seems to take place on an Argos extractor's datapad, where you seem to have suffered some sort of injury or memory loss on the job already.
At least you won't be working on Mars.
Tell me about it. But honestly, this opening reminds me a lot of the beginning of New Vegas. Starfield really shows its roots, but doesn't let any of them outshine the game's original concepts. I really appreciate that it has that Bethesda DNA, though it looks like nothing they've done before. We've talked about how the skill trees and progression works in Starfield in a previous video, and much of that still seems to stand, so I'm not going to touch on that here. Just a reminder, this is sort of a loose flyover of the Direct as a whole, and nothing too in-depth. Mostly just my opinions and observations from a first look perspective. I'll definitely be going more in-depth on what we've seen here in other videos to come. If you want to be sure and catch them, subscribe to the channel and turn on all post notifications. That way you won't miss anything.
And if you do miss anything, don't worry. You can always just go check out Juicehead, Mr. Matty Plays, Starfield Signal.
Whoa, okay, look guys, I'm the only channel on this whole platform that's doing Starfield content, okay? Trust me. Okay, so what I did find really interesting out of the skills section was the NEUROSTRIKES skill that you can acquire when maxing out your melee tree. And it is just the goofiest, but one of the most fun things they showed at the Starfield Direct. That's that Bethesda DNA that I mentioned earlier, this philosophy where they're going to go for what's fun for the player, despite it being a bit zany or unrealistic. I really appreciate that amidst the somewhat realistic approach they're taking to the game. Istvan Paley talks about how teams at Bethesda actually studied data from NASA, as well as a multitude of other sources when making Starfield. So you can expect pretty close to realistic looking planetary atmospheres, weather, lighting, and gravity. That is awesome. And I don't think we've seen something that in-depth in a space game to date.
We haven't seen something this immersive since Mass Effect Andromeda.
CISCO, I think it's about time to reprogram your cultural relevance module. Maybe I'll throw in a Metacritic databank for reference while I'm at it.
This will not be necessary. I have already taken into account the first negative review of Starfield, and will weigh this against more favorable reviews to calculate a final...
Wait, whoa, okay. Starfield already has a negative review? It's not even out yet. Look, sorry guys, this is stressing me out. I gotta go. Subscribe to the channel, leave your comments down below, and I'll finish this in a second video.
Be sure to stay tuned for the next one, as we look forward to the future.
That's my line.